Hello everyone and welcome to another Gozasan on the Decks with your host Gozasan, and today we are going to talk about a specific topic that a lot of people are a bit edgy on when they discuss it, and that is known as a concept called free to play. Now if you don't know what the term means, you probably haven't been going out too much. So let's say F2P. Now the term free to play means a game which you don't need money to own to have the game. You can download it, and in general you can play the game for free. Though there are some ways that the game itself will charge you money. So in terms of free to play, it heavily relies on income from microtransactions. Now, this can come in several forms, like say you use money to buy certain items, you use money to get yourself an advantage, you use money to get yourself your certain countdown timer refreshed, so you don't need to wait for anything, and stuff like that. So I'm going to talk about three games, and we're going to compare how they differ in terms of free to play. So we are going to talk about these three games. Let's say first I'm going to talk about Team Fortress 2, and then I'm going to talk about Puzzle Pirates. And finally I am going to talk about Plants vs. Zombies 2. Now, I know I don't. You may be thinking, why would I want to compare these three free-to-play games against each other? Because these three games have separate models of how they earn money through the microtransactions in the game. Okay, so let's start with Team Fortress 2. Now, Team Fortress 2, compared to most free-to-play games, is quite a special case. In fact, let's not talk about Team Fortress 2 because that is a special case. Let's talk about Puzzle Pirates. Now, if you don't know the game, Puzzle Pirates is... let me just set things up here. Now, Puzzle Pirates is a game where it's a puzzle game. It's mainly geared towards people, I don't know, players of all ages, because it is a very friendly game. There's puzzles all around, you can interact with other people, there's a bunch of things you can do, and most of the time you can get the whole thing for absolutely free. Now, to play the game absolutely free. Now, the game has two modes of charging people for money, and that is one being a subscription type charge, and one is called a doubloon charge. Now, there are two different distinct ways in which this how you play Puzzle Pirates depends on how you whether or not you go into the subscription oceans, which is the servers which rely on a subscription. You pay a monthly fee and then you can play for as much as you like, and in general things are kept quite low on the cheap side in terms of in-game currency and stuff like that. And then you have the doubloon oceans. The doubloon servers are, you have a market where you change the in-game currency to a special type of in-game currency in which it acts sort of like a tax to pay for certain things you want to buy. Now, usually people will go for the doubloon servers purely because it's absolutely free. You can try out stuff, and if you want something, you earn and you get it. And in general, the game itself is actually quite a fair game. If you want to take high risk, you get high reward. If you take low risk, you get less reward, but reward still. So it all depends on whether or not you, as a player, you want to take the high risk, take the high road, go on the high seas, plunder for cash, And because of this high risk activities, a lot of people come back to it purely because you have a lot at stake. Because if you like buy a ship, you take quite a bit of money in order to buy a ship, and then if you want to go into a high risk sort of adventure, you have a specific risk of that ship sinking. If that ship sinks, you will have to rebuild another one, or you rebuild from a previous one, like it's like in a tiny little bottle, sort of thing. So there's a bit of high risk, high reward, and in general, it's quite fair for everyone. That kind of model, because everyone has a specific uh, level of experience or skill in the game itself. So because of the how these adventures are cleared out, you can take a low risk adventure. So if you are a bit lower ranking or of lower skill in most of the games in Puzzle Pirates, you can still go for an adventure and you can still have fun either way. But if you are quite high in level in terms of skill or experience, then you might want to go into higher risk adventures. You know, go fight sea monsters or look around. Go for adventures which may have your ship sink if you're unlucky enough, but the rewards are there. You just have to make sure that as your skill progresses, you will take much harder risks and stuff like that. So in general, it's fair for everyone. Yeah, and I like Puzzle Pirates because of this. It caters to a lot of people, a lot of players, a lot of age groups, and also caters to a huge range of difficulty levels as well. So in general, Puzzle Pirates is one of the best free-to-play games ever created, in my opinion. So yeah, if you want to find a good example of free-to-play games, go play Puzzle Pirates, and you'll see and you understand why it is such a good game to play. Now we'll talk about Team Fortress 2. Now Team Fortress 2, if you have played Team Fortress 2 before, like I did, I actually started 2 years after the game was released, and before that, Team Fortress 2 was a pay-to-play game. That means you pay a straight up one-off fee, and then you can play as much as you want. It wasn't free to play at the time, so it's like, you want to play? Okay, you pay this a bit, and yeah, go ahead. Now you can play for as long as you want. But after it's been changed to free to play, a lot of people have been wondering. A lot of people who had paid for the game were wondering, okay, if it goes free to play, what do we get as people who have already paid for the game? So they did some restrictions, say like free to play players have less item slots. They won't be able to get like those they won't be able to get hats or taunts or stuff like that. They only can get weapons, and they can play the game based on whatever weapons that they get from drops. They can't also do any sort of trading. But for people who have already paid for invested a bit of money into Team Fortress 2, or were playing Team Fortress 2 before it went free to play, they had an extended backpack. They could get cosmetic drops. They could do trading. A bunch of stuff opened up basically for them to fully enjoy the game itself. But in general, if you do go free to play without actually spending a single cent on Team Fortress 2, you can technically still experience the whole Team Fortress 2 experience, and that, in my opinion, is just the gameplay. Team Fortress 2 is a fun game. I'm not into those like trading or, well, it's mostly trading, or maybe into cosmetic stuff. I mean, if it drops cosmetic stuff, I'm still quite happy about that. But in general, I just focus on the games. I don't do trading. Why am I repeating what I just said? Okay, I just go for the games. Full stop. And I think that's, in general, what free to play is all about. Making sure you have the full gameplay experience like that, without, like, if you want to do additional things like trading and showing off how well you are, in how you look in the game. That's up to you. But in this case, the gameplay is important, and Team Fortress 2 has been very kind on all the free-to-play players and allowing them to experience the whole game as they please. Now, unfortunately, there is a bit of a drawback after Team Fortress 2 went free to play. I mean, during the first couple of months into the game itself, and that the problem is there are a lot of players in Team Fortress 2 which have already existed in the game, which are pretty good at the game already. And then all of a sudden they went free to play, and all these new players came in, and then everyone started raging about it because they are complaining that there are a lot of newbies in servers right now, and they have absolutely no idea what they are doing in the game. Of course, for that, I find very, very enticing because I get to dominate all of them. But in general, because Team Fortress 2 became a free-to-play game after it has existed as a pay-to-play game for a few years, it has a specific set of problems for itself. Like, say, new players, they have a huge learning curve to summit because of all the new items, the new weapons that have been added to the game, the maps, the tons of maps that are in the game as well, and also how each player plays depending on the loadouts they choose. It's a huge learning curve. New players aren't able to properly think about what they should do in a game which they are new, but people have already played. So it's basically a baptism by fire. A lot of players that are new to the game will suffer a lot in the game, and unless they get some help in terms of how you start off playing the game. Like, there is an excellent introduction video for new players. Just let me search for a while. Now, it's under High GPS TF2. High GPS has always been a player who wants to help people get better at the game, and he wants to help new players. So here, this is an introduction video by him. So yeah, KFC going around. Okay, forget about that. But in general, his idea for the game is that if you are new to the game, pay attention to how people usually play certain classes, especially like if you have, since you're stuck with the stock loadout, play with the stock loadout, because usually the stock loadout is pretty much the best weapons you can use in general. And so yeah, I will post a link of how this will be shown later on in one of the links below, so you guys can check out that. So in general, Team Fortress 2 is a great game. It went into free to play. It basically went into uncharted territories after going into free to play. But they did experiment with a few things. They opened up the Manco store. They wanted to see how microtransactions within the game work in Team Fortress 2 before they decided, okay, green light, let's go free to play. They experimented. They thoroughly checked through all the kinks, the knobs, the little bits and pieces that are a bit loose, make sure they're tuned up correctly, and then they went in. And another game which is tweaked and tuned before it went free to play is Plants vs. Zombies 2. And that's one of the main things I want to talk about today. Plants vs. Zombies 2 is a great game. I've played it for like how long since it first came out, and okay, let me just brag a bit. So far in my account, I have amassed 800,000 coins. I have reached level 72 of Pirate Seas Endless, and the only things I bought from Plants vs. Zombies 2, not because, well, maybe because it's a bit pay to win, I guess, but it's still a strategic move in that sense. I bought the squash and the jalapeno. That was the only few things I bought from the store in Plants vs. Zombies 2. Now, Plants vs. Zombies 2, when it was first released, a lot of people were wondering, like, hey, Plants vs. Zombies have PopCap has been taken over by EA. So, and people have a bit of hate for EA because of how they have been handling microtransactions for a lot of their game, quite a number of their games. I'm not saying all their games. I mean, to be honest, EA makes great games, but some people just feel like EA wants to maximize profit and minimize the fun for all of us. So yeah, they added microtransactions everywhere they want. And because of that, people were skeptical that Plants vs. Zombies 2 was going to be sort of like down that road of being unplayable, to the point that if you can only play it if you buy microtransactions. Now, if you see this, you obviously know that Plants vs. Zombies 2 is a game that can be played for free, completely, without need of spending any money at all. And like, that is a huge thing, because people have been complaining like, oh, we have all these world gates that are locked and we have to pay for them. Oh, we have a bunch of old plans that from the first original game that are locked in under a paywall. Oh my god, we have to buy so many coins from the shop in order to win. I mean, if you think about that, you are not gonna go anywhere in terms of in the game itself. Because if you're just gonna keep on whining, you are not actually exposing yourself to things in which you can improve on in the game. Like say we have a lot of videos covered in Plants vs. Zombies 2 already, by many users. I've even put up my own version of how to play Plants vs. Zombies 2 in the game itself. And in general, I find it actually quite haunting that people would post up Reddit posts like this. Now, I mean, sure, I get what you mean. But in terms like they want to monetize lawnmowers so that they respawn. I did not experience such thing. No, I didn't. I'm not very sure if like Plants vs. Zombies 2 actually gonna charge to replenish lawnmowers. I feel like this may not be such a good plan personally, because if you are exposing this to a new group of players, they will think, oh my god, we are earning money so little, we don't really know anything about the game, and we keep on losing. If we keep on losing, we have to spend money to get better, and spend money to basically go back to where we were, and stuff like that. And that can be quite daunting for a lot of these players, for new players. I mean, for me, I play for obviously a long time already. That's why I could get 800k coins. But in general, it's not going to suit the new player base very, very well if they keep on thinking that, Plants vs. Zombies 2, yeah, it's a sequel, but it's a sequel where everyone should be able to play. I mean, they've done quite a number of changes such that, okay, everything is linear now, we don't have key gates, you don't need to spend money to unlock new worlds, new areas, new plants. They've taken out a lot of these things, so players can actually access these areas and plants, new upgrades very easily. So kudos to Plants vs. Zombies 2 to help out the community when they needed it most. But of course, Plants vs. Zombies 2 isn't as frequently updated compared to like Puzzle Pirates or Team Fortress 2. So people are still like, Even though Plants vs Zombies 2 has a tagline, it's about time. Yeah, it's about time that you came out, but it's about time that you also updated something new, because we are quite static right now as is. We don't have much to go down on. I mean, we can buy new plans, try new strategies and stuff like that, but in general everything has stayed the same, and we want something new. I personally want something new as well. So Plants vs Zombies 2 is a good game. It is very well balanced as well. In fact, some of the new plans I can complain a bit about how certain things for Plants vs Zombies 2 is bad and why they're complaining about it, but we'll do that in a second part of this video. So I guess what I'm trying to say is free to play isn't a bad business model for games, but free to play must be well made. I mean, if people want to play completely for free, they must have the option to do so without missing out on a lot of things. And if there are microtransactions in the game, like say, gameplay must still be balanced so that everyone has a good chance at winning or losing. Like say, if you go on to like a lot of these free-to-play games, they have microtransactions that is pay to win, where you pay a certain amount and you are guaranteed to have an advantage over other people in certain competitions, or if you are putting a very, I don't know, for competitions they get an advantage, and because of that they will always win. And there are certain free-to-play games where they keep on opening servers, because once a player base has been formed in a specific server, no one wants to play that server anymore, and they just move on to the next server, hoping that they can cash big on being the first to the top. And when I play those games, it feels like, you know, it doesn't really mean anything anymore. So yeah, it becomes a ghost town in those servers after a while. So, well, point is, free to play games can be made well, can be made fun, can be made accessible to everyone, of course. And the only thing that will make or break how a free to play game can be fun for everyone is how they handle the microtransactions, how they manage the gameplay for everyone, including the free players, how they want to introduce all this new stuff into the game without breaking the game itself. Make sure it's not pay to win, because pay to win is very unfair for a lot of people. And if you want, of course, there's another thing called a hobby game, but we'll talk more about that later on. Hobby games is like every day you go back and then you tend to a garden or stuff like that. You play every day, wait for a timer, and oh yay, you're done. Okay, you can play again today. And hobby games, of course, will have these things called timer rundowns, type microtransactions, where you can pay to continue on without the timer stopping. But that, of course, that we will talk about in our second part of this video. So guys, thank you for watching this first part of my little vlog. Wait, it's not exactly a vlog, I guess. It's just a bit of a rant by me wondering, because I've been looking at a lot of forum posts, like this post right here. It makes me angry at the person, like say, I mean, sure, you can complain about the game, but have you actually played the game? That's the question. So I want to like open up your mind, open up our minds a bit, and think like, okay, sure, but is there a way that we can change this such that there is a way for us to enjoy the game as is without having to complain about it? So that is it for my first part of this. Join me again for the second part very soon. Till then, this is Go-Sun signing off. Peace out, everyone.